Sit back and relax while you listen to Train Kickers podcast. I'm Dave, along with my co-host Dan. Tonight, we're going to take all in on the world of miniature wargaming. On tonight's episode, we are going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to be discussing essentially sort of a primer, or maybe as a continuation of our series of why to play certain things, but we're going to be talking Trench Crusade. Now, this was a Kickstarter that just finished shortly ago for the models, although the rules have actually been out for a good little bit. There was a Kickstarter for them about a year ago. But we want to talk about this as it's a system that quite a few miniature gamers are getting into for a variety of reasons, which we'll talk about. What we're noticing is happening because of both Dan and Steve's schedules. They're a bit off from one another, so probably going to be doing content with one or the other rather than both of them. And then I'll be having the different things I do on my own as well. All right, now on to the show. All right, it is Thursday evening. You have work tomorrow. I don't.
Oh,
how bad does that feel?
No, it's good. Actually, it's a bit, knock on wood, although it's already halfway through the year. It's been actually a pretty damn good year. The kids have been pretty good. The parents have been pretty good. It's been kind of calm, weirdly, which is weird because I just had a new kid. So the baby's only born in July, so we have August, September, October. So it's 4 months old, about to be 4 months old. You would think it'd be like a crazy year, but honestly, it's been pretty laid back. And then I'm going on paternity leave in February to April. So that's the entire third market period. So it's been weirdly okay. It's I don't want to jinx it. That's why it's
you do sound very uncomfortable about that fact.
I'm so used to the maelstrom of public education. Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't say it has been a maelstrom this year because they've added a bunch of stuff to social studies, and it's a whole issue. But
are they cutting in your way of being able to have the students play with fake swords? Is that the
absolutely.
problem?
Oh, absolutely. We're not a tested subject, so anything that can be pushed into the school usually gets pushed into the non-tested subjects. So that includes social studies. It's you have an 8th grade teacher who I'm not 8th grade, by the way, but you'll have an 8th grade teacher who only teaches social studies twice a week. Then one is dedicated to language. One is dedicated to world language, so Spanish. One is dedicated to avid tutorials, and then what
is that? Are they making teaser trailers or something? What is this?
Oh God. Okay. Avid tutorials, or Avid, is the program for the kids, where the idea is you take a select kids who are on the median, right? They're not failing. They're not the super genius cream of the crop. They're right in the middle. And the Avid program theoretically is supposed to push them to be the cream of the crop. And it's using skills like Cornell note taking, organization through binders and stuff like that. And the idea is these kids actually interview for the Avid class and everything. Okay. The problem is this year, the district decided Avid's going to solve everything. And so now all kids are Avid, which wholly defeats the purpose of the Avid program in the first place. And it goes against the basic tenets of Avid. And it's making social studies teachers like myself now become an Avid teacher, which I did not sign up for. And now we have to devote a day of our social studies learning to Avid tutorials. And then some schools, not my school, thankfully, I have a great administration in my school, thank God. But some schools are actually now making the social studies teachers teach math tutorials in Avid.
Oh, that's a terrible idea.
And I'm like, no. I'll do math and social studies. I'll do we were talking about but basic stuff, I was showing them how the Greeks calculated the circumference of the world is actually really cool. Stuff like that. Basic formulas that you just plug and chug the numbers.
Yeah.
Or we were doing oh my God, my mind is breaking here. We were doing oh my God, the United States government, when they have their money that they shift into the different departments. Oh my
budget?
God. The budget. But there's
that's the word you couldn't think of was budget.
Yeah. Oh my God. Woo! My mind. Yeah, we're doing. 1 week is devoted to learning about the federal budget, and they they balance. They see what the percentages are. Stuff like basic math. Okay. We're not talking algebraic calculus equations. But to teach math tutorial, I don't teach algebra. No. I don't know how to tutorial someone in algebra. What the hell? And then on top of that, there's also world language that's being done during social studies. And then they also want us to do Avid learning. As you could tell, it's stressful. But other than that, the students have not been bad, and the parents have not been bad. The admin has never been bad. So, knock on wood, it's been actually pretty. Other than that, it's been a pretty smooth year.
Right.
I haven't even gotten to like paint much either. I don't know if you could see. Let me see
No.
the camera. I'm looking at, so I don't split the screen like Dave. So I always have
Yes.
the.
Well, it's because you have a
So
normal, like, small
exactly,
screen.
but like I don't know if you could see like the pile of shit that I have yet to paint.
That's not even
This
that
is
much.
no, this is like the biggest pile. Like so,
No,
at the
that's
top
not.
I have BattleTech. Oh wait, let me go here. That's BattleTech infantry. Like but from a different company. Then I have underneath that, that's Old Dominion, the Centaurs, right?
Yeah.
And then under that are Blood Crushers that I need to paint. And then over here, that's BattleTech, right? That's the Kickstarter BattleTech that I haven't opened the boxes for. And then in between that you can't see because the boxes, maybe you can do that. You have some Bloodthirsters, you have some Custodians, it's actually the biggest unpainted pile I've had in like 15
Those
years.
those are rookie numbers.
I
You need
know.
to pump those numbers up.
I'm just so used to having everything painted to see that much unpainted. Like, I'm like, ugh,
Off to the
Jesus.
side, it is invisible from here, and I'm not going to go walk over and grab
Yeah.
it right now. But off to the side is a metal tray with 150 night goblins on it. Roughly 150 night goblins. They will get paint maybe someday.
That reminds me of when I painted 120 blood letters, and I remember painting the 120th one, and I said, this will never happen
It's going
ever
to happen
again.
again.
Oh, it's going to happen again. But it was just, oh my, it was painful. Are the night goblins at least in different poses?
Yeah. I got about 4 or 5.
Oh, they are?
poses
Okay,
on.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, those are pretty fun. Although right now I've been like my Maharabati are downstairs before the rain hit because Jersey finally had rain again. But before the rain hit, I was airbrushing downstairs so that way I could close the window afterwards to get my Maharabati and a couple other models like ready to go. So right now I'm working on some Denora Disciples for a Conquest. Then it's my Maharabati, the rest of that. And I don't know, about another probably about 4 weeks from now, I'm off for a month. So during that month is when I'm going to try to get a lot of the stuff I have to paint tackled. Like I know there's a group that does Heresy on Thursday nights up at Time Warp.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to try to start going, especially while I'm off, maybe going there a little bit. Oh, okay. I know there's still some Heresy stuff I haven't bothered to finish painting yet. Oh, I should go back and do that. So getting pulled in different directions. The Dan's going to
the good
War
news
Machine,
is like,
so he's got that.
the good news is like a lot of the custodians or demons I have, they're extras. You know what I mean? Like it's another bloodthirster. I already have 6 of those. It's Sister of Silence tanks I have. Although it is the 3 Aries and 3 Orions. So those are new. And then I have my kill team. I know you mentioned kill team. I've been playing that a lot. That's been fun as hell. I've been liking kill team a lot.
I do enjoy it. I have to say the rules are finicky in a not necessarily always constructive way, but I think the game itself is solid.
I'll agree with that. I think the game is solid. There are certain, although I know they released a FAQ and errata recently, and I remember reading some of those things and I'm like, who the fuck was playing it like that? Like, I shouldn't say it like that. That's kind of mean. There will always be people who look at the rules and will be like, I'm going to bend it. Not bend it. That's a bad way of putting it. I'm going to interpret it in such a way that gives me an advantage that is not normally seen as like a way it should be played, right?
But okay,
I shouldn't say bend the rule. That's not the correct way to say it.
Here's the problem with that sort of thought process. Who decides or what has decided what is the correct way to play?
Exactly.
For people who've been in the hobby for a while, say people like both of us, we understand when we look at a rule set, or say GW rule set, just to make it very tight here. When we look at the rule set, we can tell things that, yeah, that makes sense, or like, no, that's not, something's wrong here. If you're a newer player, you could say, hey, they don't stop me from doing this. Like, hey, that must be cool then. You may not realize that you got 30 years of tweaks are missing, kind of figure it out correctly sort of piece. So
it was just funny because I'm like looking at, like, one of them was they changed how I know Josh plays them, the Vespids.
Yeah.
And they changed it so it's like torrent 0-inch. And I was like, why would they do that? And apparently someone was arguing that the Vespids hit themselves because they fly. And I'm like, who's going to tell someone who's playing Vespids, oh yeah, well, you also hit yourself when this happens? I'm like, yeah, come on now.
What I will say, I do think sometimes when that kind of stuff happens is either one, my hope is it's trolling, or two, the people are saying it, but those are the people who either you're not going to take seriously, or it's that sort of argument when you're a kid. My thing does this kind of thing. Like, no, like,
I just read that and I was like, oh God, those people I would never play with.
You completely missed when I said you were going to do War Machine.
I'm not. I
I
ignored you.
totally
I
said
don't
it.
know if you see the Facebook chat as I'm. I'm
That's
trying that Facebook. I have
yeah,
multiple
not right
screens
this
open,
second, but
and
yeah.
and I have one of my friends literally been like, "Let's just split a starter." Then I'm like, "Shut the fuck." And so for those who don't know and are not, on YouTube seeing my face, War Machine basically released its. I'm not
Fourth,
gonna say it's update. It's
fourth
new
edition,
revitalized.
essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just worth it, but it's revitalized. I should say it's been revitalized,
Okay.
and a lot of their
Why is it
designs are
revitalized?
it died off a
Okay,
little
no,
bit.
that's not why it's revitalized. Why it's
Oh
been
well.
essentially revitalized, they came out with their fourth edition, and effectively, Privateer Press sold it to Steamforge Games.
Ah,
So now that Steamforge Games is the ones who are the purveyor of War Machine, they said, hey, here's what we want to do with it. Here's our design direction. So that's why now you're getting starter sets in the way that you are and all of that, because we don't know exactly when all this sort of started to happen. But a lot of now the what you might call the pomp and circumstance of the game is coming out now with this new headlining company. But why not War Machine?
just I can't again. I can't be hurt again. Because War Machine is like Infinity. You say it's gonna skirmish game, but you goddamn well know that you're gonna buy a million models, right? Like Infinity, God, I started with what, a starter box, now I have like 30, 40 models of Pan Oceania military
Yeah.
orders. That's the same thing with War Machine. It's a skirmish game that you buy more of. You know what I mean? So
But I
like,
don't know if I don't know
yeah,
if I would call War Machine a skirmish game. At the end of the day, I think we call it skirmish because we compare it to 40K with 100 plus models. War Machine
true,
still does have units and all of that. Like when I think, okay, Trench
true,
Crusade to me is skirmish.
yes,
Infinity is skirmish because I'm not get. You could find ways to get to theoretically 20, and actually,
yeah.
I don't know in New Infinity if they cap that more. There used to actually be an even stronger cap. War Machine, though, at least when I used to see some of the matches, you could actually have a good amount of models if you're running
Those
some
were
of these
also, but that
units.
was at the time, like third edition. I remember those matches where you could
Yes.
use, they were, I think, 100 points at that point,
Yeah,
and
but
you added in
it was
like,
100 points, but essentially they just almost, not exactly, but doubled the points of a lot of things. So it wasn't,
yeah,
it allowed for more granularity, but it wasn't necessarily changing the amounts of things per se. I'm not saying it's a large scale game, but I don't believe it's truly skirmish unless now I haven't looked at the new stuff yet. Unless it has been pared down, units may have been pared down. That all could be true. I don't personally know.
yeah. No,
I've
but
done War Machine twice.
the new redesigns are very good looking. Very much like Catalyst has been redesigned a lot of the old BattleTech designs
Mhm.
to look better. War Machine, the new jacks and the new infantry models look, and they still retain that kind of silly, goofy kind of big body. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But like the weapon systems, like I remember in old version, like the Kador jacks would have the bore size of a gun, like the size of the goddamn model. It was massive,
Yes.
right? Now it actually looks like an actual, gun, I guess.
Yeah. You can
It
believe that
looks
it works.
yeah, exactly. It's still kind of got that big, goofy, heavy duty, big body, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I haven't looked at it much. I don't think I necessarily will. I'll put it this way. I don't it at our particular local store. No, it's not really going to hit big. There'll be some people with
exactly.
it, but
That's
but there's been a community that's played every Sunday
I know
since the beginning. They've been doing it for years. At other stores, I absolutely see why some people want to push it. Would I try it? Sure. Would I necessarily get into it?
probably not.
Not with what I have going on right now, or if I did, it would be in a very casual way. My tournament experiences, actually I remember it was my first War Machine tournament. I think I got
Oh
second.
yeah, that was another big
I got
thing.
second because someone timed out. I was able to beat him, and then the other guy, he thought he was great and wonderful, but I beat him, and I got a bye in the other round, so I ended up getting like second or something like that in the tournament after like I had played like 2 games of War Machine.
Have had some really salty moments. It's just, I don't know why. I'm not going to talk about the play, but actually I will. The community. So it's kind of the same reason why I moved away from Warhammer 40K a little bit. The tournament scene.
Hmm.
I did not like the War Machine tournament community. It did rub me a very wrong way. And I was much younger then. War Machine third edition was what, like 10 years ago ish?
You're talking second edition is when we played my
Oh,
third.
no, when did I have Kador and all that? Remember the
Second.
Russian Kador I had?
No,
Was it
second.
second?
Second
God
edition.
damn.
We did not play third edition at all.
We did not play. So yeah, at that point, I guess I just then you know what? At that point, honestly, at that point, I just kind of, I don't know, man. I just was not happy with the community. Is the nice way to put that, and I guess it just rubbed me the wrong way. You know what I mean?
War Machine,
Which is fine. That happens.
Yeah, War Machine had the old. Oh, for anyone who doesn't know who is newer, the actual catchphrase in the rule book of War Machine Second Edition was "Play like you got a pair." It was designed by people who looked at 40K stuff and said, "I want to make a more true tournament game, not necessarily cutthroat." But it definitely got to that, and I think they definitely pushed some support to that. So it did become where if you wanted ultra high levels of competition, that was a game that you played. If you wanted more fun, you go to other things. Now, I'm not saying you can't have nice casual fun games at War Machine, but the big push from the company went that way. Tournament circuits went that way. Play groups, I found, often went that way. I'll be curious to see, now with Steamforged Games running it, what happens now. Although, some of the people from Steamforged Games were the ones who did Guild Ball, which was the offshoot of, hey, we're not doing, some of our guys aren't War Machine guys anymore. We're going to do this other game. And then they destroyed the game because they didn't like that people were playing their game the way that they let people play the game. Although that's back now. So.
Which is another big worry of mine. Because listen, I've mentioned this a million times in the podcast already. Yeah. One of my biggest salty grieves is when Spartan Games went under and kind of just, left everyone hanging, and I don't want to get burned again. So if you notice, a lot of the games I play are kind of either games that are well-established companies, so that's Games Workshop, Catalyst Games with Battletech has been around forever, right?
Yeah.
Conquest. I don't know if Parabellum will ever go under, but Parabellum has made some pretty damn good sales. You know what I mean?
And they've been there for 5 solid years.
Exactly. So that's more established. Trench Crusade, which we're going to talk about tonight, is all STLs, and print them. If it dies, it dies. If it doesn't, it does. It's not a hard investment, which we'll talk about later. But like stuff like that is, I like, that's why I get worried, because Steamforged Games,
they have a very inconsistent track record in my mind. Now, I would love to be proven wrong. And no, I didn't reach out to them. If they want to, I'll reach out to them. If they want to send them stuff and we'll do a review, we'll talk about it. That's fine. I'm sure the game is fun, but there's some things they've done that I liked and some things they haven't. And that was a good bit in the past. And I'm hoping now, under whoever their current leadership is and structures and all of that, that they have it figured out. Some of their board games are really good, and other ones were kind of mediocre. Some of their miniature stuff was really good, and some of it was kind of mediocre. My hope is that War Machine has enough of establishment that it goes well for them, because I know a lot of people are very excited about it. So maybe I'll try it out. I got no problem trying it out. Maybe I will reach out to them, and they won't get back to me, and I'm okay with that.
Exactly.
It won't be the first company. Other ones have, but it won't be the first one.
Has Games Workshop ever still received? That's going to be like our ongoing joke.
When I'm at PAX in a couple of weeks, there's a Game Workshop area, so I'm gonna wear my shirt that day. I'm going over to talk to the guy like, hey, can you get your friend at least to tell me something? I'm fine. They're gonna say no, we won't work with you yet, and I'm fine. But at least this way I know what it has to look like. But also we haven't talked about their stuff in a while, which I have no problem with. Just when I do stuff on myself, I usually don't. I've been pushing a lot more Conquest because that's obviously what I've been playing a lot more of. All right. That and painting and a variety of other things, but I gotta get back to more hobby stuff, and I gotta get back to more editing. I still actually a battle report I gotta edit, and I probably have to get a new gimbal because it was giving me issues. Speaking of things that we'll be doing, though, once this game is STLs are in our hands and get all that kind of stuff printed out and all, we'll be actually recording some games for this as well, especially because it's skirmish is just easier because it's on a little bit smaller of a board. I can kind of work with it. It is. But we are going to get into Trench Crusade. Now, the goal of this, if you are a person who you bought one of the giant packages on Kickstarter, we're not going to be telling anything you don't already know. The goal of this is for someone who either doesn't necessarily know, because I'm still watching the Facebook group every day and seeing people say, hey, I didn't know about this, or oh, I just heard about this. So this is a good primer for those sort of people to get at least some base information. Or for anyone who's impatiently waiting for stuff and wants to just hear people talk about it. We're going to be, so what we're going to do, this is going to be similar to our series that we've done in the past of why you should play this particular game. We're going to go through a little bit of the lore, a very broad discussion of that, a bit about how the game is actually played and game design ideas, a bit about the factions, all of that. At the end, we'll talk about why you might play it and some reasons why you may not. So that's the overall design of what we're going to do. So, Dan, would you like to attempt the 30-second elevator pitch?
Yeah.
Okay, do it.
Do you want the grim dark of Warhammer 40,000, but in World War One? And actually, in my opinion, slightly more even grim dark and brutal.
It's
Like it's dark.
GW is what I will say, and we have a lore primer, but we don't have a lot of lore yet,
Yeah.
and there's inconsistencies, and that's going to change.
Yes.
This is if GW wanted to be as dark as they say their system is.
Actually, everyone remember third edition? What was the black rulebook? Black rulebook with the Black Templar. That was third edition, right? I remember third edition. Those really creepy drawings. It was third edition, right? It was the. I have it over there. I bought it on eBay because that's when I first started. I wanted a nostalgia. Remember the black rulebook with the Black Templars and those really creepy ass drawings of the pipes going to people's that like old grim dark. We're talking the John Blanche era. Yeah, take that, put that in World War One, and creepify it, and boom, you got yourself this game. It's World War One. Well, it's World War One currently, but like the lore starts before World War One. We'll talk about that when we get to talk about the lore. But yeah, it's World War One with demons and just blood, and like it is like I don't know, my face isn't coming across. If you're listening on the podcast, YouTube, you'll see my face, but my face is like wide-eyed. It's grim. It like some of those images they have are straight up. Who is that artist? That I know I'm going over my 30-second pitch, but who's that artist, that horror artist that does a lot of body horror? I don't know why I was thinking MCS show now. He's big with like Geiger. Giger, sorry.
Yeah.
Like Giger-esque kind of body horror.
It's a particular, yes, it is actually pronounced Giger. A lot of people pronounce it Geiger. He pronounces it Giger.
Okay, so Giger. If you remember that Giger-esque kind of
aliens,
just weird body horror.
Yeah.
Jesus, like it's bad. But it's good. It's bad and it's good and bad in a good way. Like it's not bad.
It's aliens. Giger did aliens. That's where
we'll talk about some of the designers, and when we say the names of the designers, it's going to make hell of a lot of sense why. But yeah, no, it's great. That's my elevator pitch, and it's a skirmish game. They're saying.
Yeah. So if you think back, there was a big to do at one point when there was a part in the GW lore where Grey Knights bathed themselves in the blood of Sisters of Battle to make themselves even stronger against the demons, and people are like, that's insane, that's crazy. That's, day one of what you read here.
That's on a good day.
Yes. Now, part of that is obviously because GW is going for pure mass market appeal. This is not trying to do the same sort of thing. So they can do the crazy stuff that GW kind of talks about or brings up, but kind of avoids to a certain extent. What I will say is this is a skirmish game that sets itself in a little bit different of a viewpoint. So it follows that sort of very dark sort of world, sits currently with 6 factions, and you are looking at a rather fast-paced game where models, there's dice rolls, but it's a very you got it or you don't sort of system in some spots with modifiers. So when you look at like wounds, you don't have wounds. You're either up, you've fallen down, or you're taken out, essentially. So depending on how those die rolls goes, depending on how it happens, I do see this currently as needing to be rather beer and pretzels. I think it should be. And we'll especially talk about that when we talk to some of the balance.
All right. Basic lore?
Yeah, so basic lore here. Basic concept is, and what's nice, if you're watching along, I will pull this up as well here, that starts in 1099 and goes up to about 1914. So we're looking at and a bit over 800 years.
Oh, 800, sorry.
Yeah, about 800 years. And the idea what happens is it's alternate history to our history where you have just enough of time period things and then diverges greatly. But you'll still recognize some of the names or places and all of that. So essentially what happens in this particular setting is that the Crusaders go to Jerusalem and they go, underneath, the temples and shrines and all of that, and they find some sort of dark artifact, whatever that may be. We don't know. Even if we did, there's no way to truly know because it says, as you can see, if you're watching the screen, it says that the history is biased and likely inaccurate. So we know they went there. We know this blasphemous power, essentially they decided to follow it instead of God, and that caused literal hell to open on earth, depending on the religious organization people are from. They call it different things, Gehenna or any of that. But essentially, literally, hell has opened up.
For those who remember like video games back in the day, this was very much like oh crap. I had that in my head.
It's a great story.
Hellgate
For people
London?
who remember, I don't.
Yeah, Hellgate London.
There's a variety of games that do like
yeah,
this.
but it was like it was an
Doom is this
MMORPG.
idea.
Oh, true, but like it was an MMORPG where the gates of hell open in London, and knights try to find. It's that, but worse. Because as you could see, he has a screen up. Jerusalem is just gone, and most of the surrounding area, by the way, fun fact, also gone. Like they nuked that site with hell from orbit.
Well, there's actually even a spot when you read through it, and I've watched some of the discussions of back and forth of, okay, they talk about essentially the science of the time, and they specifically mention the church has a space program.
Yeah.
Okay,
that was in the
and some people were, like late 1800s.
Yeah.
And so people were saying, okay, well, did they come up with nuclear technology and all? It's like, well, actually, if you read it, they do talk about how Antioch in 1545 was destroyed by a mysterious infernal weapon, and the lingering, essentially evil there was sickening and hurting the people, but they decided not to leave. And people were like, yeah, that very well could have actually been nuclear technology, and that was fallout. But these people don't know what that is. So the other thing, obviously, some of the art, since we put this up on YouTube as well, I have to be a little bit careful about the screens that I go to. So I'll show certain little bits of art. I am going to be skipping over certain
Side note, some of that artwork, don't go to page 7. Don't go to the next page. I have a preview.
I scrolled to that only for a moment. I think that's okay.
I'll
blank it out if necessary.
Open chest.
No.
Yeah. The artwork is, like I said, we'll talk about it, is very grim. It is.
Yeah.
There was another artist, and I feel like I'm going to lose my mind on.
Probably.
Yeah. I think it was an American artist who did this, kind of like open body and like body horror and stuff like this. But anyway, but yeah.
A little bit more about the lore for what we know. More importantly, things that we don't know. We really only have a concept of what's happening in the Levant or the Fertile Crescent, either way you want to think about it. So we're talking about the area, around Jerusalem, all that sort of, the Middle East, as we would call it in our world. Another thing, obviously, this takes ideas from, our religions that we have now, but obviously alters it in various ways, and entirely, like, the people know, all this stuff is truly real. It's real. Everyone believes it because they see it, or at least for what we know, everyone sees it.
Little correction too. It does go past the Fertile Crescent, because if I'm not mistaken,
they go a bit past it.
Mainland Europe, I think Jean d'Arc does. Yeah, Jean d'Arc mainland Europe. So they do even pass to I think they even get to Britain at one point, or at least try to get to Britain.
But they don't. Here's the thing: we know. Okay, they say there's inaccuracies. That's probably true. Let's face it. It's reasonably new lore, so things are going to change. We know what happens essentially there. We know it extends something to Europe, extends something to Africa, sends something towards Asia, but how much and all we don't know. It is intentionally vague. There is no maps. They do mention how England's kind of like, hey, we need to do stuff to protect.
Yeah,
we know there's some problems. Towards water, but we don't know if it's actually there. At least not for what they said. And even if they said, who knows? So, I mean, it is rather has a lot of vaguities to it, but they give you enough to get you very interested, and we'll see what comes from there. Like, so when you read through the lore primer, some of it's the same things that you get in the rules related to the lore, but some of it goes a good bit deeper, and they do have some very interesting and expansions to all of this. I think
and it's cool because I was going to say, it does go into the specific factions, which we'll talk about later. Mm-hmm. But some of and it goes into even sometimes specific units inside that faction.
Yes.
And it's just neat. Like some of this, you're showing the screen, right?
I'm showing the screen with the
Go to page 24 just to give you an idea of how dark the artwork. No, it's not bloody. Don't worry.
That's
you
fine.
Show this. But go to 24.
That's okay. Just can't be. The biggest thing would be sexual. That would be the problem.
Then definitely go to 24, 25. 25 is my favorite. But just look at 24 and 25. floating stones, the black and whiteness, the hoods, the weird. It's just weird. It's
Yeah.
like just. It's almost like almost Cthulhu-esque, you know what I mean? Like with the weird tablets floating in the distance. Add a couple pyramids in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just the artwork is just fantastic. Anyway,
All
after
right. So we'll get a bit more into the factions. I know there's some other good resources out there if you want to hear more about lore. I do want to do some more discussions on it, but I've read through it multiple times. I want to see a little bit more before I feel comfortable talking about it, because also things could change a little bit more. But let's go a little bit into game design. So there are some famous. I knew the one designer. Dan knew some of the other artists.
Yeah.
On this. So I'll just mention the first when they mention essentially their team that they have. They do mention by name one of their game designers. They mention Tomas. He is the one who essentially wrote Mordheim and Warhammer 6th Edition. So he has done other stuff. He's worked for Ubisoft and a lot of other companies. But if you'll notice, this has a little bit of that Mordheim feel, being this sort of small skirmish. Obviously,
Yeah.
the game works differently, but sort of that feel, there's probably a good bit of that is the reason why. The other people I don't personally know.
Oh, so yeah,
Yes.
that's a lead off to me. You know, so
Was.
really quick, just you have James Sheriff. James Sheriff is really well known because he worked with people like John Blanche and Ian Miller, who third through I think fifth or sixth edition. These were the guys who kind of did the artwork. And again, you could very much see the kind of Blanche style of just dreary, drab, gory kind of. Again, it's the old. I wish if I had time, I would like run over. I don't even think the book is over there. I think it's upstairs in like my special bookshelf. But I would pull over and just kind of pull out the artwork just to give you ideas. But it's very similar to that very dark and dreary world. Then you have Wilfred Armstrong. I know him. Oh, Wilf posts on the Heresy Discord because he does STLs for some Heresy models, specifically Sisters of Silence, and he's basically the main reason if I were ever to get a 3D printer, which I won't,
Nope.
but if I ever to get a 3D printer, he would be the one that broke me because he does. He's for those who don't know, he's his full name is Wilfred Armstrong. He's Diverging Realms is his company, and his Sisters of Silence. I wish I could post. I know I can't share my screen, but some of his models are like just like the Sisters of Silence tanks he does are just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And you could see his kind of style in a lot of the humans with the kind of the arched armor. Anyway, and then you have Martina Ginevra Albano, another great artist. So just a couple of these guys, you could see their style kind of come out in the artwork, which is great. I like that a lot. And it kind of makes it strong. I remember when I feel like we talked like once about Drop Fleet Commander, and I was super happy that Andy Chambers was on that because Andy Chambers made Battlefleet Gothic.
Yes.
And sometimes you want that strong name because Battlefleet Gothic was a great name, so you want great game, so you want that that designer in there talking. So someone like James Sheriff or Wilfred Armstrong are like those are names we know. So it's kind of cool to get that in there because it's like it gives it. I don't want to say it gives it like validity because that's kind of mean to say like, oh, without them your game's not valid. I don't want to say it like that, right?
It's not, but it does give it wrong though.
Yeah, it's not entirely. It does give it like, oh shit, I know this dude. I love his work. Let me see what it gives it. It gives it that kind of oomph. I guess is the best way to put it.
Not everyone can do game design is really what it boils down. It is as much of a skill as it is an art in reality. There's a reason why when you see certain names and known names, you see them keep popping up because these are people who have this ability. There's a reason why probably if you play a card game, it was probably designed by Richard Garfield. That is, and he's done board games as well. He did King of Tokyo and all that. But if you play like a card game, he probably designed it, or the person was at minimum influenced by it. But think of the important ones. He designed them. So there's certain people where this is what they do and they're very good at it. So they stick around. And when you see that, it's sort of that seal of approval that you're at least getting something of quality. You might not get something you like. I'm not saying I like everything that all these different people do, but I know it's a quality product. All right. So why don't we talk at least a little bit about we're in game design. So let's talk about the game itself.
Yeah, of course.
So basics for this particular game is that it's alternate activation, which alone is very, very nice.
I love that.
I
Always best.
I have a pet peeve. My pet peeve is the overall is a turn, but individuals, I guess that's activation.
It is, yes.
I prefer a lot of systems. The general convention now is rounds, and every interaction is a turn. So I know I personally will call it wrong constantly. I'm going to try not to do it here. But it's an I go, you go, and the turn starts with whoever has less models.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we had a brief pause there for a second. So like I said, this is an I go, you go system. Whoever has less models gets to take the first activation. Not sure if that's necessarily always going to be for the better or worse, but that's essentially what they do. Much like if, say, Shatterpoint or anything like that, you have a list of actions. You can do every action once, and you may do as many actions as you want. So you want to move, you want to attack, you want to do, there's a list of them, of course. You can do all of that. You just can only do every one of them once. The big thing is actions are automatic unless there's something that tells you have to roll some dice for them. And if other ones you might have to roll dice for. Obviously, like attacking, you're rolling dice to hit. But actions can be mentioned to be risky. And a risky action means you roll on a chart. And if you pass, which 2 dice is the natural roll in this, I pulled up the chart for anyone watching. The action success chart, it's 2 dice, 7 up, you succeed. So 50% of the time, you succeed. You roll under, you fail. If it's risky and you fail, that particular model is done activating. No matter what else you're going to do, you're done. Moving is not... you don't have to roll for base movement, but there's other types of things. They call out what's risky. One of them is jumping down on another model. Part of it is risky and stuff like that. So they call out what's risky and what's not. So they'll always tell you that sort of stuff. I have to say, at least for the moment, I didn't see tons of stuff being risky.
No, but a lot of the actions that you want to do are, though, risk. Like, how did that came out completely wrong?
Yeah.
Let me try that again. There are a lot of actions that are risky, but the actions you want to do are risky, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like moving is perfectly fine. Not
Yeah.
that shooting is necessarily risky, but you're going to be rolling dice anyway to shoot. You're going to be rolling dice anyway to attack in close combat. So, but they list all that. Also, just to make sure we mention, this is essentially alpha rules or beta rules, whichever one they call it. Doesn't really matter.
It's alpha. I think it's alpha.
So things could very well change. Do you want to describe how the actual dice system works?
Yeah, I got that one. So the dice system is actually pretty cool. So it's a 2d6 system, right? But it's a modified system, very much like War. Well, I was going to say like War Machine, but not really. So sorry, I apologize for that. So it's a 2d6 modified system, and the idea is that you roll 2d6 for the actions you take, right? And as you had the chart of 7 is 7 up is good. So, and the way it modifies is it adds or it subtracts dice from the system.
Only adds dice.
Oh no, you could subtract dice.
No.
Blood markers subtract dice. Do blood markers not subtract dice?
Nope. You want me to explain it?
Wait, but
yeah,
give -1 dice.
Nope.
Am I going crazy?
Yes, I'll explain it.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so here's how it actually works.
I was gonna say,
this is in general, there's some small spots where this changes, but mostly it changes on injury rolls. This is a roll dice, take 2. So if you only have 2 dice, you add up those 2 dice, that is your result. Obviously, you're trying to hurt someone, you're trying to get success, and they might have things that modify that a little bit on you. The way they modify it in this system, you could have things that say to add dice or subtract of a number of die. The number it says is obviously how many, but here's the interesting part to it. If it's a plus, then you're going to take highest. If it's a minus, you'll take lowest, but you always add that amount. So if I get +1 dice, that's what it says, then I will add 1 more die in. I will roll 3 dice, but I'll only take the 2 best. If I have -1 dice, then I'm going to add a dice into my pot. I will 3 dice, but I will take the lowest 2 dice. So the general system is that you always count 2 dice.
I thought it was just remove the dice.
No. Okay. The plus or minus will inform you how many dice to add in and whether or not you get to take the best or the worst. So if you have I have an armor that causes -1 dice. Oh, I'm long range, -1 dice. So you are now shooting at me minus 2 dice. What that means is you're naturally 2 dice to roll. Minus 2 dice adds in 2 more. You're rolling 4 dice, but you're taking the 2 lowest. So adding more negatives, like what blood markers do, just makes it where I'm going to roll more and more dice, which makes it more and more likely that I got some bad numbers, and then you're forcing me to take the low numbers. Dice do cancel, so if I got a +1 from something, you give me a -1, they cancel out, or net result. But that's actually what happens. So you're always counting 2 dice. What you're changing is how many you roll, and whether or not you get to pick the best or the worst. This can change slightly with injury rolls. When you go for injuries, you are often on 2, but there's a couple different ways where on the injury that, oh yeah, but add 1 extra die in, and you get to count it. So there's more than one way on injuries that you actually count 3 dice. Where base skills, I didn't notice that. I don't think that's a thing so much in base skills. Okay, do you want to... Okay, so I guess... Do you want to explain blood markers then? Because now that you got the...
Yeah, I was going to say, I always thought it was -1 dice. Whoops.
No.
No, my fault. So yeah, blood markers. There is no health values. I know Dave mentioned that before. There's no health values. Essentially, as you get hurt, you get blood markers or blessed markers for something else. But we'll get done with that. So you get blood markers. And essentially, the idea is as you gain more and more blood markers, they'll give you -1 die to any action roll your opponent will spend them, and your opponent will spend them on you. Yes. So how do I? We have 2 models. I know I'm using my hands and there's video, but people visit my. So I have a model. Dave has a model, right? I give 2 blood markers to one of Dave's models. When Dave models activates, right, I can actually spend those blood markers to actually give him -1 dice on that action roll, right? I'm the one interacting with him, right?
Yeah.
You could also use them to get +1 dice on the injury table. I believe. What's a kill? Is it 9 or 10?
I believe I thought it was a 10. Let me scroll to it real fast.
I think it's 10. It's a nice
9 up
number.
Is out of action.
It's 9. Okay. All right. So it's like, for example, on the injury table, a 9 takes you out. Think of that for more time, right? But I can spend a blood token to say, you know what? Now I want you to do it on an 8 or something to the effect of, right?
No, it's not what it does.
Oh, sorry, not an 8. Yeah, that's right. It's not +1. No. You're right.
A very simple thing to look at when you look at the rules. If it says the word dice after it, you're following, like I said, you're adding those dice and plus look for good, minus look for bad. You can alter the numbers though. So armor adds or subtracts from the actual result of the roll.
But what I'm saying with blood markers is I can make you roll the dice, and then because it's blood markers, I can make you choose the 2 highest to increase the chance of you dying. Is the way it's hard to explain because it's
blood markers are always negative to your opponent that they're on.
Exactly.
Which means if I'm going to be doing something, you can make it harder for me to do it. And if you're injuring me, you can make it easier to injure me.
Yes. But it's just weird to say like, oh, I'm going to make you choose the 2 highest dice. Because normally, unless you're talking about Conquest, no one wants you to have the 2 highest dice. But in this game, because a 9 knocks you out, I want you to have the 2 highest.
Well, you're higher on the table of injury.
Exactly. It's weird to say because, Conquest is like the opposite, but anyway. And then, of course, by the way, there are some other, you can make injury rolls with 3 different markers. And also you have blessed, by the way.
Bloodbath.
Oh, blood. But did I skip that rule?
For bloodbath, normally, like I said, an injury roll is the 2 dice, you take the result. And if you add or subtract dice, you're still only ever counting 2 dice. What bloodbath does is, if your model is up currently, you got to spend 6 blood markers. Or if your model has been downed, you spend 3 blood markers. And with that, you get to roll an extra d6 and you get to add it on. So essentially your roll now becomes 3d6 counting it. That also, great. And they specifically call it artillery witch. That means hers would essentially be like a 4d6. So cool. So if you're certain models, this is a balance factor. You have some models who naturally have minus dice and have armor. So, I make you roll 3 dice, take the bottom 2, and whatever you roll total, I take 2 numbers off of that. So essentially you need like an 11 to hurt me, and you're only ever taking the bottom 2 dice because of the armor I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you might be able to get some markers on me. If you get enough markers on me, now you can add in some extra dice, which is going to get you to that 9 or 11 or whatever it is, the number you need after modification. It's your way. It's like pinning in a bolt action or anything like that. If you can't actually take me out because I'm too strong, just start stacking markers on me, either to spend to make sure I don't do anything to you, or to get enough of them together to be able to get that big hit.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can talk about Blessed.
Well, I was going to say blessed is literally just the opposite of blood markers.
Yes.
It's basically whereas blood markers are negative, blessed markers are positive. So you would get, if you're doing an action, you would get +1 die. So, but again, that doesn't mean you add a die. I know I got to keep saying.
It does mean you add a die.
Oh, that one is you added. Oh, yeah, sorry, because blessed. All these new rules.
You add a die.
Yeah.
Okay, if it says number of dice, you add that additional amount of dice.
Yes.
Then you look if it says plus or minus. Plus means count best. Minus means count worst.
Yes.
That's what it does. So blessed, which, by the way, naturally is +1 die on your action, which means I will roll 1 additional die and I will take the best.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. The key is that you're always counting, except for certain like rare circumstances.
Yeah.
You're always counting 2 dice. So a minus die can't remove dice from you because you have to count, you have to look at 2 dice.
Exactly.
So that's why the minus just takes the lowest.
It's not, I shouldn't say it's a new game or new system. It's such a,
what is a new game?
I'm not going to say weird because that's connotates bad, but it's such an interesting way to run the dice. I don't think there's any game that does this.
Not that I've seen.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird to talk about because it's like, I can't compare it to anything I've ever played in all of the years I've done gaming.
Yeah.
That's why I said War Machine, but it's like, not really.
There's a lot of little games. And I don't know all of them, but it doesn't work in a particular way that I've seen other ones. I've seen other ones have adjustments to the charts and stuff like that. When we look at, like, say, Bushido is a difference in dice, and then you're looking at charts and stuff like that. But this is unique from what I've seen, at least. Okay, so hopefully Dan has that kind of down pat. Like I said, there's a lot of different types of actions.
I would have to play it a couple times. I have to play it a couple times in order to get it down pat in my head.
The big thing is if you take a look at, like, right now I pulled up the injury chart. The top of the injury chart, this is page 9 of the rules. The injury chart there says, trench shield, -1 to the injury roll. Notice, that's not -1 dice. It doesn't say -1 dice. That would change the way you're rolling dice. This is just -1 to the roll. So there's a distinction in ideas. If it says the word dice with a number, I'm adding dice and then taking best for plus or worst for minus. If you want to alter my roll, it just says, reinforced armor, -2 to the roll. Doesn't say anything about dice, so I'm not changing the amount of dice that I roll. I might have rules that change the amount, because I might have something that, like tough, which actually does do stuff like that. Or, sorry, not tough doesn't. There's other rules that do. Sorry, tough means if you're going to be knocked out, you just go down instead. Is that minor hit? Notice, minor hit is on a 2-up. So on a 2-up, you put blood markers down. So as long as you get a result, you're going to put blood markers down, and you could save them up to do some good stuff to people. Again, we're not going to necessarily go through all of the rules here. Morale. Morale's interesting. A lot of skirmish games do you lose half, you start running away, or you have a problem. Infinity has the same sort of thing where you start retreating. You can just leave. Keep in mind, you can play one-off games, but I think this is much more designed for campaigns, and they talk about that. So there might be reasons why you want to run, so your guys don't get injuries and then get knocked out in future things. But you can stick around. You are then called shaken, and every action you take in that following turn is a risky action. Every single thing you do. So you fail on any of these rolls, that model's done activating. If you're still around for a turn after that, then you're fine. But the next time that you would take the morale, you're out. So you'd have to take the morale test again. But if you fail, you're out no matter what. So they'll let you keep fighting on if you want, but it's at a big detriment. Now, if you're playing a one-off game, doesn't matter. But if you're playing a campaign, you might actually want to leave. So I found the morale very interesting because it really matters in campaigns. And if it's not a campaign, you only really have to mark when everything's going to be risky, essentially, because you would automatically just want to do that. Do you have any other particular things you want to say about the rules? We're on about
There's a lot of.
10.
I will add. I know. I will add though. This not about the rules, but there's also a ton of customization.
Yes.
So the way because this kind of is about the rules. The way you build armies is you use ducats.
Yeah, ducats.
No, is it? That's how you say it.
Ducats.
Oh, that's good. So you use ducats. Think of it. It's points. You're using points, but it's coins. You're using coins that are used as points. And the amount of customization that each army has is a little overwhelming. But it makes sense. So. I know I said a little over. So, like for example, I want to play the demons, right? They're called essentially the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. They're demons, and just to give you an idea, because I'm on that page, because I was looking at kind of the STLs. They have let me see here, just one. They have about 11 to 12 range weapons, all of different ducats, and they have limits on them. But they also can have combos with melee weapons, which have also 13, and they're all different ducats. And then you have the armor ducats. For those who are used to like old school Warhammer Fantasy or like Mordheim, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. There is a ton of customization. For you just starting it, you might be a little bit overwhelmed at first, and then you'll get used to it eventually. But just a little kind of side note about that, because it is really cool that you can build a lot of stuff out of this.
The general design is that your model doesn't have any war gear. You want a gun, you got to buy the gun.
But you got to buy the gun.
You want a close combo weapon, you better buy it. You don't honestly start with anything. So you've got to get all of those sort of things. So that's where it can feel a good bit much when you look at like the war gear list. It can be a pretty long list. Oh, but I look at this guy. He only really can take this option because it'll tell you what they can take. But the points cost of the model is deceptive. That's not the points cost unless they're running around without anything. You're going to be paying more to get to it.
Yeah.
All right. Just a little bit about before we get into the factions, the game itself. Standard play, if you're doing campaign, starts at 700. If you're doing a one-off, you're starting at 900. You do get. I don't know if I don't care to go into this moment right now, but you essentially can take allies. It's based off a glory point system. There's certain types of mostly neutral units that you can bring.
Meh.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to worry about it for the time being, but essentially you do have these sort of other models that you can bring. But otherwise you're playing at 900. 900 looks to be 6 to maybe 20 models. Certain factions have less, closer to 6, but some of them can get well above 10. So that's about the amount that you're looking at. Obviously, some of those lists would be just like absolute schlub guys, but you can do it. I know at least for ours, for Sultanate, there's a couple of guys who are like super cheap. At least the one, they're like 25 points each. So you can really stack a lot of them.
Yeah.
But that's essentially how the game is played in terms of rules. It is rules-wise simple. We were talking before about Kill Team and the problem we had with Kill Team. Now, there's some terrain rules and stuff like that. Of course, there's bits that we didn't discuss. And once it's in our hands, we're going to do some like learn to plays and all of that. But in essence, what we talked about is the way it works. If you understand those concepts, you can pretty much play the game. Whereas when we play Kill Team right now, terrain, it causes a lot of like weird issues and just you really have to do a lot of work to get it. I don't feel that way here.
No.
So, and then they give a list of keywords and all of that. So, and I'm also curious, I'll see what happens when they update rules in time, of course. But they give you a list of keywords. And like I said, then they talk about how they start a warband. We talked about the general way that warbands go together. For your models, you got 2 hands. So you can carry 2 one-handed weapons or 1 two-handed weapon. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we talk briefly, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but we'll talk briefly about the different factions.
All right.
Do you want to take Heretic Legion?
I'll take the evil ones because it's funny enough. I think you
All
did
of them are
evil, good. Oh no, they're all bad. Oh my god, yeah. I'll start Heretic Legion. So Heretic Legions are your normal evil mooks. What's really cool about their lore, because I loved reading the lore is so great. What's really cool about their lore is like you have your normal evil dudes that carve their bodies, with blood runes. But what's really neat is that they will make pilgrimage into the lands of hell. And the deeper they get, right? The deeper they get, the more up the hierarchy they get because they just get crazier and more evil to the point where, and I think you could show this one on YouTube. Let me find the page though. The weird like, hold on, let me see. This guy creeped me out to no end, but I want to show the picture if you're on YouTube, and I'll explain what the image is. Oh, there it is, page 21
Of what?
of the Trench Crusade rules, I should say. Sorry,
Okay, the rules. Okay, no, that's fine.
where
Just need to
you
know
have some,
what you're
yeah, you have the heretic choristers who, by the time they get to the deepest parts of hell, or some of the more deeper parts of hell, they will literally cut their own head off in, of course, supplication to the dark gods. And they're still alive, and their blood will begin to make weird transmutational like symbols of out their neck as they sing and they praise the dark gods, which freaks everyone out on the battlefield for obvious goddamn reasons. So like you go from like your normal kind of mooks to the heretic chorister, which is looks completely to page 24, or sorry, let me go to page 23, your actual kind of beasts and demon beasts, right? And then you have page 24, one of my favorite units of the game, a witch, an artillery witch, who quite literally summons bombs from hell.
Yep.
That's literally will open up a portal and summon a 40 millimeter bomb. So like that's your heretic legion. They're not demons per se.
They're not demons.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, look at the heretic chorister. They're humans. Humans, italicized with quotation marks.
The way they explain it, for what we see in the lore, is that when you are just the worst, one thing hopefully is obvious in this: Abrahamic religion is true.
Yes,
that's the first thing. The Abrahamic religion is all true. There is a hell. There's God, there's Allah. Although they're probably the same person in this, we don't know for sure. But in most things, that's all the case. So the one thing that's not true, or that we don't know for sure, is that Lucifer doesn't exist. At least they haven't said it.
No, they do mention the princes of hell and stuff like that.
They don't mention
Lucifer. Don't mention Lucifer, which is interesting.
Well, because it may not be a thing. Or if they're going, Dante's route, which to an extent,
I think they.
For anyone who doesn't know, the current publicized view of all of this comes from Dante's Inferno, really. And there, in the lowest level of hell, the devil is there, Lucifer's there, but he's stuck in ice.
Yeah.
So he can't get out. But they talk about like Beelzebub. He's a different archdemon. And we'll get into him shortly because he matters and all. But essentially, when you are the evilest, worst kind of person, you get drawn to go here. And if you're bad enough, it doesn't utterly destroy you on the way to the gates.
And it'll attract, I guess, not supporters.
Well, no, it always attracts people. But there's no guarantee
what I meant
they
is,
survive it.
But it attracts what's it called when someone like supports you in the arts?
Patrons?
A patron. Yeah, it'll attract patron demons to support you. And that's what like the chorister. The chorister is literally the only reason they're still living? Question mark? The only reason they're still living without their head is because a demon is essentially their patron. And then, of course, you have the artillery witch there, but they're human-ish, not demons, but they're evil.
They are humans.
Yeah.
What has happened to them since another thing? But essentially, they tried to go touch the gates of hell, and if you're evil enough, you were able to make it there. And then if you're even worse, you made it further inside.
Yeah. Like I said, they're about as human as Space Marines are humans. There we go. That's the best way to put that.
Although the other side does stuff as well. What I will say.
No, I know. Oh, I'll talk about the Iron Sultanate. As you talk about Trench Pilgrims, I got Iron Sultanate because they freaked me out as well.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Not entirely sure. I guess I know why. All right. So for Trench Pilgrims, which I'm just showing for anyone watching, just a little bit the base bits of the war bands and all. So for Trench Pilgrims, these are essentially the exact same thing, but on the side for God. So these are people called for various reasons. Oh, one other quick thing I want to say related to Heretic Legion. Why it draws some people in. If you know you're forsaken, so you've done bad things, and you know God's not going to want you. On the other side, they do have a rule that if you do something good enough, or you essentially take down someone big enough, you are redeemed in their eyes. And they do that because essentially that's what the demons did. They rebelled and, hey, they fought for their freedom. So that side, the heretic side, will let you fight for your freedom. And if you do good enough, yes, you will actually get your freedom. So they have wretches. As a wretch, yeah, you fight as hard as you can, because if it works, you actually are free. When you look at the Trench Pilgrims, so these are the people who are called to, the side of God and all of that.
They're Crusaders. They're Crusaders.
Yeah. To an extent, yes, they are Crusaders. Yeah. Although they are, in many ways, often at least in the base bit, just the normal people. You have the pure pilgrim parts who show up with a variety of things and just follow whatever the most holy thing is that's nearby into battle. They talk about them in a pure religious fervor, almost like the other side, really. The big thing in this is, it's hard to say that there's a good guy. There's less bad guys, potentially. But when you look at this, certain things that they've done, they do have essentially walking buildings, for all intents and purposes, that has a monk being tortured inside. And that torture this is very old school Abrahamic God.
Just show page 39. That's the good guys, guy.
Yeah, this is the idea of it's like a Titan sort of thing, but it's there's a monk inside who's being tortured to use it. Some of them put themselves on. It carries a wheel. It is a great honor to be strung across the wheel. So it's that sort of, self-flagellation sort of good guy side, if you want to think about it that way. So through pain, there is something good. Little spots they haven't told us. They talk about things like the Metachrist. There's 7 of them. From what a lot of people believe, they believe it was on this side, they're trying to create a new Jesus. For all intents and purposes, they're trying to use his blood or whatever it may be to try and put together and make the holiest being that they can, where some of them actually ingest part of this Metachrist, and that's how they become what they are. The communicants, that's really what they are. There's other ones who wear a helmet that lets them hear the voice of God. Which
I remember reading that.
They can see the past, the present, and the future a little bit. However, humans weren't designed to be able to hear it, so it pretty much drives them crazy. They need essentially drugs to knock them out, because you can't sleep anymore because you hear this all the time, kind of thing. So, it is the good side for the simple fact that is the side that does not want to torture for the fun of torture, although the people do it.
Again, it's like, if we go back to like old school Warhammer, old school Sisters of Silence, not the new ones, even though they still have penitent engines-ish, right? But like old school Sisters of Silence, those real, like Arco-Flagellants, the battle sisters, the penitent battle sisters, and the old school penitent engines that would drive nails into you because you did something bad, and only you get redeemed through death. It's this, but in like World War One. That's why I think that's why I get creeped out a little bit by this. 40K is divorced from reality enough where I'm like, this, but because as a history teacher, I know World War One and seen some of these models and seen like how they are, and I'm just like, yeah, that's close enough that I'm just like, is it Uncanny Valley? No, that's like but like Uncanny Valley, just close enough to freak you out slightly.
Yeah, it's like that's what this watching Polar Express.
Yeah, this is what this reminds me of, because it's not Uncanny Valley, because there's no
Uncanny Valley.
Uncanny, sorry. I don't even know what I said. But it's just close enough to history where I'm like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. They do a good job through this. I will say, in learning all of this and reading through it multiple times, there's a lot of things I just didn't know the words for, kind of thing. And it's like, because in a moment, Dan's going to talk about the Iron Sultanate, which is the Islamic faction.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, okay, I just didn't know some of their words for things.
This one I got.
Okay, that's their word for the end of the world, kind of thing. So
yep, and that's ironically because I teach about the Islamic Caliphate, during the
Yeah.
Crusades. A lot of this I knew, but again, they tweak it just well. Let's talk about it. So, are you done with the Trench
Yeah.
Crusades?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fine.
So let's go to the Iron Sultanate. So the Iron Sultanate are your it's the Islamic Caliphate of the Crusades, right?
Mhm.
This is your Jesus Christ. Um, I forgot the name. Oh my God. The guy who took over Jerusalem and rebuilt a lot of the temples, and this was his
Saladin.
third. Saladin, thank you. Oh my God, this is your Saladin plus, right into the Ottoman Empire and everything. So anyway, the big lore is that they built this huge wall, this invincible iron wall. It's actually one of the two. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, the iron wall of two horns that pierce the sky.
Mhm.
Pretty cool stuff, right? But this is your Islamic Caliphate, essentially. Their big thing is that unlike the heathens of the church, right, and the heretics of the church, they believe in elemental mastery and alchemical science. And you're thinking like, okay, that's pretty cool, right? Very much like the Islamic Caliphate believes in algebra and science, right? That's where we got a
Yes.
lot of our algebra from. That's pretty cool, right? They must be a little better than the crazy crusade. No. So you have your sultans, you have your elites, right? You have your assassins, and then you start getting to see a little bit because like on page 49, you see your assassins and you see like their chest and they're kind of like masked up. And it's because they are pumped up on some superior hallucinogenic drugs, right? And you're like, okay, that's a little odd. And then you get to page 51. And then you get to page 51 and you're like, wait a minute, what the shit? Because their alchemical sciences are like, let's just birth some creatures that we need to defend our realm. So these creatures that they birth are just horrid things of science, alchemy, and or my favorite is like page 52, which is gigantic, the brazen bull, right? Which is literally just well, I mean, it's a brazen bull, obviously, but you could see it. It's just full of pipes and organs. It's held together by sheer will and alchemical science, and it's just again, Dave kind of said before, there are no real good guys. Like it's just funny. They have their science, they have their magic, but just enough creeps through that it's like they're just evil enough.
Well,
Um,
of the factions we know so far, they
yeah.
are, I would say, overall, absolutely the least evil. Or I don't. Okay, I don't want to say like Trench Pilgrim side is evil
Yeah.
necessarily. The big thing is they are the ones who currently seem to be the least self-destructive. What they're creating are Takwin, which are essentially like a homunculus. Like
Yes.
they're not. That's not an alteration of a person. That's a whole separate thing. Although they do alter some of their people. Their assassins can essentially travel through time.
Oh yeah, that's another cool thing. To give you an idea, the lion, I forgot what page it was on, but the
Yeah,
lion
Ryan Shabir.
essentially is. So it's funny because it's like, it's kind of like a shush shush. Like I'm reading the lore right here. I'm back
Yeah,
on the lore page, and it's very much like they don't talk about it, but the government is very much into it, right?
yeah.
And a lot of the alchemists are killed when they do something like the Lion of Javid. But the government absolutely allows it because when you meld this human into flesh and armor and essentially whatever the hell that thing is, it does kill a lot of demons and it does protect the realm. So it's kind of those like, what is it? I was going to talk. There's a phrase here. God, English is like failing me today. I don't know
It
what's
really
going on.
is.
I know it's today. I'm just off my game. But like the idea of like the lesser evil kind of nonsense, right? Eh,
They are the
listen,
lesser of the evils
yeah, it's
currently.
like, but it's more of like, hey, I had to mutate this one dude into this crazy Lion of Jabir looking monster, and he's never gonna be the same again. And he probably killed 16 scientists because he went crazy, right? But it does protect the realm,
Yeah.
kind of nonsense.
Yeah, and they mostly stay behind their walls. They come out
Yes.
to essentially achieve an objective. Where some of the other ones, when you think of, we're going to get to them in a little bit. The Principality of New Antioch. New Antioch is essentially the human settlement that is keeping everything at bay. That's really what it is. The
Yeah.
Trench Pilgrims. That's where they're going.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's there are, it's okay. The sides related to the demons are definitely very bad guys, but the other sides have their very dark things as well. And the question is, are they doing it because they want to or because they need to? And to a large extent, you kind of need to.
Yeah,
So
it's a. I don't want to mutate this dude, but they do kill tons of demons and they do protect the wall. So
yeah. All right. Principality of New Antioch. So this is trying to find it. There it is.
I got this one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, not you. You got it. You got it. Sorry.
Yeah. So this is essentially your actual army. So the original city of Antioch was destroyed. Like I said, that was the one that was destroyed in essentially their nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
And they said, this place is too important to let it go. So the powers of the church that be way back in parts of Europe and all said, no, we're going to tithe to you, which is not just money, it's people, it's all the things that you need. We're going to rebuild this place. It must hold. And it has held. It's held against 8 major sieges and all this other stuff. So it does hold. This one, like I said, this is the actual sort of pure army compared to the Trench Pilgrims, which are essentially, driven almost insane to go serve. This is much more of, they are serving to protect. And the big thing is that, yeah, they do still fight the pilgrims and stuff like that, because sometimes the pilgrims get in the way. Sometimes they are driven so fervently that they just fight anything that gets nearby kind of piece. So that's in essence who they are.
I will point out.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I want to point out real quick that despite them being an army, there is something in the lore that says, even though they're a regulated army and they only exist because the forces of hell infight all the time.
Yes.
Had the forces of hell actually gone together and attack New Antioch, they would have fallen. Yeah. But because the forces of hell keep infighting, as per the forces of hell, as they usually do, they would not survive a full attack. So they're also they're like almost kind of like your Eldar in my respects. They're like they're good, they're an army, but they're like on the brink of extinction.
Yeah.
Which is
they are the ones that if it were to go down, it might all be over for the rest of humanity. And a lot of times they do mention that the demons infight amongst themselves because as immortal beings, the war's only been going on for 800 years. That's nothing to them. To them, nothing's even really started yet. And it's more fun to screw each other over. So,
oh, yeah.
All right. Did you want to take which of the last two do you want to take?
I'll take the cult because that's the one I want to play. Although the other one is really neat as well. Yeah, I don't want to insult anything. So I'll skip ahead and I'll go to do the court of the court of the seven-head serpent. These are your actual by God demons. Now be very careful because there's also another demon list, which is Beelzebub, and they're like plague demons. This is more of your, I guess, normal demons, I guess is the nice way to put it. Yeah. And I'll explain that in a second. So these are essentially though your normal demons. These are your demons of hell. They are the courts of demons. And what's really neat about this army is that you can actually play as the 7 deadly sins, which is why I said it's not. So Beelzebub is like the plague. There is no like plague deadly sin, right? They are the plague army, right?
Well, he's more gluttony. No, he is gluttony. They actually gluttony, say, he is gluttony. He is the most powerful of gluttony, but he wants to do his own thing. So that's why
he's independent.
Does it. Yes.
So you could play wrath, envy, pride, gluttony, greed, sloth, or sin. Just go over the 7 deadly sins, and each one of them will actually modify how your army plays. So it's actually kind of cool because you could play the lust army or the gluttony army, which is not Beelzebub, or the wrath or envy army. But yeah, these are your essential demons. So going from top to bottom, also what's really neat about them is that they have their own kind of things called goetic powers, and the goetic powers essentially go off of the blood markers that people have. So like, let's look at Wrath real quick since I have it open, right? Wrath requires a limit of 3 blood tokens. It's only on the elite guys only, but it'll do something. For example, the model's charge is always a maximum of 12 inches, which is insane on a 4x4 board, but you need 3 blood markers on something. So something needs to be really slaking that demon's wrath, right, in order to charge it, right? Or you have, where's Lust? Lust is great. Lust is, for example, Call of Flesh, right? Where essentially Well, you can't be targeted because you're essentially calling them, right? So depending on the blood markers that you have, you can actually do these spells, quote unquote, which also cost ducats, by the way. Those all fun fact, those also cost ducats when you purchase them.
Yeah.
And then like going down the list, you have your actual unit. So you have your Praetor, which I mean, just this page, what is that? So I can tell you, 97. You have your Praetor, which I mean, just Jesus Christ. Like, looks like like this is monstrosity. You have your sorcerer, which is your demon sorcerer, obviously. And then just going down the list, you have your Hell Knights, which are actual, Hell Knights, demon Hell Knights. There are really, you'll notice that there's really no mortals except for the wretches, but the wretches are demonic. Their keyword, I think their keyword is demonic. Give me a second. Also, wretches are humans. Wretches are humans.
Yeah, wretches are humans.
Pause.
They're
I
the
thought they
ones
were.
who are-
I thought they were.
No.
I'm looking at their keywords. That's why I thought they
No.
were demonic as well.
No.
No, they are your humans.
Wretches are the ones that are trying to prove themselves, because if you take out someone big enough, you actually get redeemed.
Yeah, which is great, and they're cheap, and they're and then you have the Pit Locust, which is another demon. Looks amazing and very weird. Desecrated Saint, another human. So yeah, or sorry, another demon. Which also, side note on the goddamn Desecrated Saint. What just like look at the design on that
What
thing.
page? I don't have all the stuff.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not
sorry.
scrolling through because I don't know the things
107.
I'll
If you go to
find.
107, go to 107.
Yeah.
That is insanity. And I'll explain it for the people who are not on YouTube. So imagine a demon, you're big, think of like a Dark Souls demon, a big guy with like 6 arms, right? And then in the middle of the body, it's cut open and there is a human on the inside with tubes slinking into the chest cavity and the eyes.
It's a dreadnought with an open sarcophagus.
Yeah, it's just Jesus Christ. No, actually, not in this case.
Yeah.
Not Jesus Christ in this case. And it's funny because they have their SMGs and their automatic pistols and their bolt action rifles because there are humans in this. But it is your demons. It is your demonic hellblades and everything. And again, they're basically the court of demons, and you play them as one of the 7 deadly sins. I don't think you can mix. I was trying to see if you can mix the different things. I don't. You must select which of the 7 deadly sins. Yeah, no. You can either be wrath, envy, pride. That makes sense. Gluttony, greed, sloth, or lust. So you do have to choose which of the 7 deadly sins you are, which is great.
They call themselves the court of the 7-headed serpent because they're the ones that lead, and it is the 7 deadly sins. These are the ones who choose what happens down there, and the idea is one of them, through infighting and just all different things, one of them always ends up rising above the others, and they enact their will for a bit, and then they get clawed down by the other ones. It's crabs in a bucket kind of idea.
No, that's essentially what it is.
Yes.
It is essentially crabs in a bucket.
Yep. For anyone who doesn't know where that particularly comes from, crabs are very well known for something that they do. So if you have a literal bucket full of crabs, and one of the crabs is about to get out, the other crabs will grab it and pull it back down. Crabs don't allow other ones to escape. So, last faction, Cult of the Black Grail.
Disgusting.
So in this, like I said, the different names for like Satan or the devil are essentially different demons. Beelzebub is one of them. Specifically, like I said, he is the strongest of gluttony, although he does his own thing. He is, for all intents, if you play anything 40k, he's Papa Nurgle. So he's the one out there making a variety of plagues and all. His best plague that he's made is what they call the Black Grail. He unleashed it out. You essentially need to burn it out, or it will destroy people. But if it goes on for too long, they're stuck between this not exactly dead, not exactly alive sort of bit. And they, for all intents and purposes, are like, the Poxwalker type things. They come back in that sort of fashion. So this is your, let's say, if you know anything of 40k, this is your Nurgle diseased looking army. Like I said, they're not exactly dead, but they're not exactly alive either. Some of them actually are. Some of them are kind of listed more of like zombies, but that's in essence what you're kind of taking a look at here with these guys. If you want the gross looking faction, that's really what you're taking a look at. All right, so that gives us a little bit about all these different factions. Let's go into just briefly why you might decide to play this game.
Honestly, I'll be honest. What attracted me was the artwork. I didn't know anything about. I'll be honest. I didn't know anything about Trench Crusade. 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then I remember someone mentioning it on the Toyways Discord, and then I saw you guys talking about it.
Yep.
And then I went to Rogue State Gaming and I saw the board, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I went on the Kickstarter, which had already passed it. I know you guys were doing the Kickstarter.
Yep,
I looked at the artwork and I'm like, what the actual shit? It's like Dark Souls and what was that Blood game?
Bloodborne.
It's like Dark Souls and Bloodborne had a baby with Warhammer 40,000 third edition and went straight off the goddamn rocker. So honestly, already the artwork is why play. And just fantastic design on the models, fantastic design on the artwork. And from experience, because I know how well it does his custodians, and there are other designers as well, but just fantastic goddamn design on this. That's attraction to the models. That's a weird way to put that. But no, models looking good is just definitely one of the reasons. You don't want your models looking shit on the board. But other reasons why, in my opinion, it's a skirmish game. I love skirmish games. I'm old now. I'm old. I got white hair. I got 2 kids. I can't set up unless I'm going to like an all-day narrative event for Heresy. I ain't gonna go to the game store and play 2 games of 40K. I'm sorry. I can't anymore. I can't do 2-day tournaments. I want something where I can play 4, 5, 6 games in the short time I have on a Friday in Maplewood Hobby to just play. And that's why skirmish games are attractive to me. It's quick, it's easy. I play for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, get to the next game. You know what I mean? I don't get tied down. I don't have to oh man, on turn 3, did I score 2.5 points or 3 points? I got to make sure. Skirmish game. It's also, like I said, very dark. This is an acquired taste. I don't. I'm going to put a controversial opinion out there.
It's not going to be controversial, I bet.
No, this is, I think, the darkest game I've seen in a while.
How's that controversial?
No, because
what's the darker game you're thinking of?
Kingdom Death? I don't know if you ever played Kingdom
Death.
Yes,
I have played Kingdom Death.
Have you seen the models?
I'm not a big fan of the game.
Okay, but have you seen the models for Kingdom Death?
I've absolutely seen the Kingdom Death
and
models.
They're just creepy as shit.
Yeah,
and you're like, what the hell?
So I'm not going to show it.
Oh yeah, stuff like that. I was like, wow, that no one can beat this. This just took that and blew it out of the water. Like I was like, what the shit with some of these. It is a dark game, and again, I don't want to go into all the lore. There's you could. Oh, by the way, rules are free online. Lore is free online. If you type in Trench Crusade rules, and you go to playtest rules, you can see the quick start rule. I'm looking at it right now. Playtest rules, quick start rules, roster sheets, lore primer, mercenary rules, campaign rules. All right. So if you look at the lore primer, just read the lore. It is just depressing. Yes. Like shit, man. It is. And I'm not the person to be like, oh, I love reading depressing novels, but at a certain time, I'm just kind of tired of reading heroic shit. I just want to I want to read something about there's just darkness and depression and shit. It is fast paced from the rules I've seen. I did make some mistakes. I got to play the game to understand the rules a little bit better.
Everyone has said it's fast paced because the rules have been out for a bit. People have been playing it.
And I've seen some YouTube battle reports on it too. So it is fast paced. It has a campaign system. Not that I'll probably ever pay a campaign system because I don't have the time to anymore. But that's always a nice benefit, in my opinion. But honestly, to me, the big 2 things are it's a skirmish game. 3 things are it's just dark as hell. I don't think there's anything on the market like this. I'm going to be honest. I don't think there's anything on the market like this level of just depression and darkness and just pure evil. Like I say, it's just like Diablo on crazy. Diablo. Oh, no. Here we go. Remember that? I'm ranting. You saw the new? I'm sorry, guys. I know. Sorry.
Well, you're just trying to describe that a dark game is dark. Yes, it is.
No, but okay. For those who know Diablo, there was that recent trailer for Diablo, right? For the new expansion. I don't know if you saw it, Dave, where they're on the boat, right? And she has that vision. Do you remember that or no?
No.
So she's on a boat, she's that vision, and then she gets warped to the Hell Realm. And there's a scene where her arms essentially split open and the bone shoots out and it gets connected to this fleshy. It's hard to look at. It's like you look at it, you're like, oh god damn. That's what this reminds me of.
Okay.
That level of just visceral, Jesus Christ, no, please, dear God.
Yeah.
That's what this reminds me of. And that's why I like it. And the models are great and it's skirmish. And I like the dice system. I know I didn't say that, but I kind of like the dice system. It's
Do you like it now that you understand it? Or did you change your mind about it?
I'm still not going to understand it until it's like Conquest. Conquest took me 3 or 4.
Your dice go low. That's Conquest.
I know, but it's such a. I know, but it's still such a change from looking for high numbers. Does that make sense? Which is why Conquest dice have the symbols on the ones to help me.
Yes, of course.
I know. But it's such a weird change. When you think, oh, I need a 2 to do it, that's really only a 6 on a normal die, right? Because it's a 1 or 2. Anyway, point I'm trying to make is, the dice system is neat. It is new. I have to play it a couple times to get the feel for it, but I like it
Yeah.
because it is something that I haven't played yet.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
that's
mean,
my rant.
for this, they've people who played have said it's actually very fast, and any slowness is obviously learning the system and all of that. A variety of factions. Is the setting I think is very interesting. Anytime you get what is often also called weird war kind of thing, is very interesting. This one takes just enough of Abrahamic type religions, twists it just enough, and keeps it interesting while still using some of their words, phrases, and some historical context as well. So I think there's a lot to like about it. What's also nice is, well, nice and slash kind of not nice, and I'll get into that. The other thing is this one, it is STLs is what they're doing for it, and they do have a company. It's printing models. Another nice thing that they're doing is that for like, okay, I have a 3D printer. I'm not going to be doing this part of it, but if I wanted, I could work on becoming essentially a authorized seller for them. So what I'd have to do is essentially print out models, submit and show that, hey, my models have really good quality, and then I could become someone who prints and sells models for them. They're doing the same thing with lore. Oh, hey, you want to write lore? Well, if you don't use any of our names of stuff, you can kind of do what you want. You want to use some of it. Oh, well, now you have to actually, talk to us, and we have to pick sort of a level that you're at almost. Oh, if you do it at this particular level, we'll let you use certain things. You can't necessarily use our assets, but you can start using our words. Oh, if you become like a real partner of ours, now you can actually use some of our assets. Now you can use our pictures and stuff like that. So they're trying to grow much more of what you might call grassroots for this. Now, I think that's really great. I do have some concerns about that. My main concern is a game only survives if money comes in. Okay, they're doing sales, and they said, hey, use whatever models you want. Personally, I'm going to use the ones that they've done. I'm using them for a few reasons. One, it's going to help people understand what it is, because if you're familiar with the faction, I'm going to go with Sultanate first. But, if you're familiar with the faction, you'll understand the models I have. And it also just helps me remember the models I have. The other thing is getting the STLs does support them. And with this, currently the rules are free. The STLs, or, you can either purchase them and print as much as you want, or go from an official partner. I want to make sure that I'm getting money to the people who are making something that I want to do. That's why, like I said, personally, I'm not using alternate models, because I want to make sure they get something out of it. I don't begrudge anyone who does, but that's just personally why I'm not. I want to make sure they're getting something from it. For a little bit of why maybe not to play. One, it is still very, very early on. It is an alpha rulebook. The balance is, let's face it, the balance is going to be off. Now, I don't think you should necessarily play this for the highest competitive, but yeah, there's a lot of misbalance right now. And Sultanate, if you want to go through the right thing, you can create a homunculus that is carrying brazen bull weapons and is just destroying any model that you see that he wants to, kind of thing. People talk about artillery witches, like, are they way too much? Well, I can create a thing that's just as good or better and all that. Like,
so I mentioned
just crush balance on this if you want.
I was gonna say I mentioned the wrath thing because I haven't been part of the Discord, but I've been talking to people. You could create the Praetor who does just auto charge 12. You plink a couple rifle shots down range, get 3 blood tokens. Your Praetor's now marching or just charging 12 inches across the board. And on a 4x4 board, that's a quarter of the goddamn board. And you don't want this dude in close combat. Yeah. So that's a very, very scary concept.
Yeah.
So
well, there's definitely different distinctions between it being scary and it being probably too much. Maybe that is. I don't know. I know some of the other spots people are talking about too much. Now, what I will say is it's early on. The best way to fix it, or if you think there is a real problem, is play it and prove that there's a problem. Don't just start complaining before you start playing it, and don't just if play test or that sort of information goes best when you can say definitively, here is why it is an issue, not that I struggled with it. Oh, my army didn't do well against it. Okay, well, what did you do to try to stop it? What are the avenues you took? What models did you bring? All of that. You need a more holistic approach to it.
Yeah.
So that's one big thing. The other thing is, like I said, the bookkeeping. This can be a very intensive bookkeeping, even though you only have a few models, because you got to buy war gear for everyone and track all that and all that. I can see in this much more, maybe at some point when an app comes out, but right now in this much more digital age, if you're a newer war gamer, might not be used to like sitting down and like making a spreadsheet.
This is
all
a
your stuff.
very old. Again, this I mentioned Mordheim. This
Yeah.
heavily reminds me of Mordheim.
Absolutely.
I remember purchasing. Oh, I'm getting a pistol. Then I'm getting plate armor. I'm getting shorts. That's kind of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Like that's what this reminds me of very heavily. And as someone who played Mordheim, I can be used to that, but I can exceptionally understand a newer war gamer who's used to like the Warhammer 40K app, right, or the Kill Team app, that just kind of has that information there for you. But on that token, though, if this game does become more and more popular, you can absolutely probably see just someone making an app for this.
Oh, I guarantee you someone's working on it. There will be something at some point. If they don't do an official one, I'm sure someone will.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff always happens. But yes, there's a labor intensiveness to get it to the table, where in certain things, if I want to make a conquest list in 2 minutes, I can have my list done. And I can put it right in the app and I'm set to go. All my rules are there. Everything's perfect. This isn't there yet, but it's also super new. So that's not surprising. If you want those sort of things, I can pretty much guarantee you wait, you'll get it. Their Kickstarter got over $3 million. There's 20,000 plus people there, and there's more and more people every day saying, hey, I just heard about this. How do I get in on it? So I don't know. One thing I'm curious to find out from anyone in different areas, is your local store or local stores at all, are they interested in this? I think every local store near us that I know, and like I said, I go to about 5 different stores. Every store I know is doing this.
Yeah, and it's so weird. Again, like I have never heard of this. I never heard of the Kickstarter. I never heard of the game at all. And I only started hearing about it when you guys started to make Boy Hobby. And then I remember visiting, and then I visited Toy Wiz, and they were talking about it. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Okay, whatever. And then I went to Rogue State Gaming, and they have 2 full game boards ready to go with models on it already. I mean, they're using third party because the Kickstarter wasn't done yet, but that's what I'm saying. They have I sent the picture. They have a full board.
Yep.
So I'm sitting there like, what the shit is this game? I'm so confused. So yeah, I'm curious to see, because I don't want to call it like, oh, it's like weirdly not, that popular, but I don't know anymore because of just from what I've seen.
It is popular. The question is it, endemic? So where we are, it is popular. Where we are in Jersey, though, we have a very high density of people, gamers, all of that. So it's very easy for things to hit sort of a critical mass where you'll find it in our stores. What I'm curious is, how is it looking in other spots? Like take Wild West Exodus, for instance. Wild West Exodus never really hit well on effectively the East Coast, at least the East Coast where we are. But it used to be really big out in California. I don't know if it still is. But in the past, that was a huge game there. But you couldn't find it here. I'm not sure. Did this hit all over the place? And that's what I'm curious of. So
I am curious as well.
Did you go in on this? Are you planning on going in on this? Is your stores? What's at least nice with something like this is, hey, if you get your warband, they're pretty small model counts, pretty small amount of models, I can get them for not too bad of a price and then kind of good to go. The other thing is, obviously, if you're waiting for the physical models, if you don't have a 3D printer or know someone who 3D prints, you might be waiting a little bit, because we know the other models are going to take a while because the company's just trying to, they've already said it's going to take them like 6 months to get it all out. But if you're doing STLs, we have them in probably like 2 weeks. So I know I have to do a little work on my printer just to get it all set up. But as soon as they're in my hand, I'm going to be printing off, that first week, probably every faction. So with all the upgrade pieces and all of that, so those bits. So anything else you want to say about this before we call it?
No, honestly, again, just I recommend people just type in Trench Crusade in Google, download the rulebook or download the lore, and just look at the artwork. Because honestly, it's hard to explain. When I heard about it, I was like, let me just Google this nonsense and see what it is. That's what attracted me. Looking at the models and being like, what the actual shit is this? This is horrifying. And then me sitting there like, okay, I'm into that level of horrifying. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like, again, maybe because it's just there are no games on the market that have that type of feel or models or I it's kind of like if someone were to come out with a space game and I'm like, oh, there's no space games. That I'm going to really play that space game because no one really has a good space game out there because Firestorm Armada is gone. Um, it's kind of the
Starfleet
same.
might be okay now. I don't know.
I keep I got no. Just like War Machine, I'm not going to look at it. It doesn't exist. I don't want to look at it.
You would
It
have
doesn't.
even a harder time getting Dropfleet games in than you would War Machine.
I know. I know.
I don't know anyone who's actually playing Dropfleet.
I know. I know. But that being said, like just again, like this is a weird scratch itch where it's like a World War One skirmish game, which I feel like there are some around, but
There
it's
are.
got that yeah, it's got that level of horror that's just like no one else has. And
It's different. And
yeah,
and when you've been playing games for a bit, anything that's different is worth looking at.
yeah,
And then when you look at it and you see you can get in a nice, reasonable way, you do it.
yeah, and it's just just looks cool.
Yeah.
Ugh.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight for this particular thing. Like I said, we are going to be covering more of this, especially once we get some games in. Like to actually go over and talk maybe more in depth about the factions, different pieces like that. We will be recording some games of it once we have it, because I do know several different stores. Like I said, I know Steve was helping build the tables up there, so at least can get some games in with him as well. For other things, there'll be some more Conquest stuff. I'm going to be recording, hopefully with Steve this week, is my hope. We are going to be doing a tier list for new players for Conquest, easy faction to hard faction, everything like that. I should, maybe the day after you see this, be done with the October updates, so that way I can start getting to some other things. One thing I am going to be doing, there's a little bit over a week left. They're currently doing through Conquest a design your own mission or design your own scenario thing. So I'm going to be doing that.
For Conquest?
Yes.
I saw that and
Yeah.
I can't find it again because I wanted to
Go on
participate.
their Discord. It's on their announcements.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
I saw that I kind of wanted to participate because it did kind of look cool and I have a couple ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. So my plan was to do that, and I'm going to do that and tape it essentially and go across and sort of discuss what makes good mission design and all of that. And I will submit mine before that episode comes out. So you'll be seeing that as well. There's a few other things, of course. I do have a battle report I have to end up editing and hopefully filming some other ones. It's been a little bit light on that, but we're going to get some Sigmar ones in and see from there more Conquest stuff, of course. And then, because we're going to hopefully be doing the campaign that they had for City States and Sorcerer Kings, because Parabellum was nice enough to send that to us. So I do want to actually go through that, play it, tape it, put it up, and a bunch of other things. If there's anything in particular that you want to see or hear about or anything like that, obviously let us know. We enjoy talking about all kinds of different things, so we enjoy talking about what ends up being popular and what we want to talk about, what people want us to talk about. If people are interested in Dan learning more about War Machine, let us know. Maybe we'll have maybe we'll see if Gavin wants to come on and he can try to convince you.
No, Gavin's gonna be talking about Battletech. You stop that. We're not
talking
doing
about War Machine too. He wants War Machine. You don't have to give in to peer pressure.
No, but I have the willpower of a tissue paper. I have the willpower of tissue. For fuck's sake, hold on. I don't know. Yeah, hold on. Let me open the camera again because I'm that
the
way.
The camera that if anyone's listening to audio can't see.
Yeah, I know. But just to so
yeah,
I'm gonna zoom in.
Models.
So,
we all have a bunch of models. You just want to get the camera closer to yourself.
So we were doing Kill Team, right? And I was like, I'm just gonna do like a small Angels of Death, right? Angels of Death is
that's
6 goddamn models. 6 goddamn models. Let me see if I can get it right there. That's 21 goddamn Space Marines on there of every every customization for Angels of Death, and they're all Death Watch with all different shoulder pads. And
no one would care about the WYSIWYG to that level, right? Is that what you did?
No, but they all have different shoulder pads. They all have different shoulder pads. I literally have 21 chapters represented in the Death Watch, and they're all the resin ones too, like the resin 3D printed ones.
Yeah.
I have the willpower. I have the willpower of wet tissue paper. I swear to God.
You're just lucky we didn't go to Necrovember, that we kept it as Kill Team November.
Oh, thank God.
Well, also none of us wanted to play
I know.
Necromundi either. So, and then tomorrow GW does their
reveal. That's right.
Yeah, like
11
1 o'clock in the afternoon.
No. 11 EST. Oh, don't tell me it's 1. I'm in the middle of
I'm
class.
pretty sure it's
No.
1 o'clock. Look it up. I
Oh,
can't look it up. I'm displaying
I
my
know. I
screen.
got you. I as you were saying it.
Yeah.
Wait. What the hell do they call it though on their website?
Just look up Warhammer reveals.
I did, and it brought me to the Warhammer community website, and then it brought me to the main page because.
Oh, really? No, when I looked it up earlier, I found it.
Let me see. Warhammer reveals. Yeah, it brings me to the main page.
Warhammer.
Reveals.
Warhammer.
What is it called? Warhammer Open? No.
It's the championship.
November 2024. There we go. Let me try that. Preview show 2024. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. I have to. Yeah. If you type in.
Okay. What does it say? Don't tell me what you have to type.
No,
what
I'm
does
trying
it actually
to.
say?
It doesn't even say EST. Come on. What the?
I guarantee you it gives you EST.
I wish I could share my screen and you would be just as frustrated as I am.
I would not be frustrated because I looked at it earlier today.
Now I want you to find it because I feel like I'm getting
1
frustrated.
p.m. EST.
It is 1 p.m. EST. God damn it, Joe.
Yes.
All right.
I know we can curse. You don't have to curse as much though. You're allowed to not.
No, oh, man. No, it's fine.
Yeah. 1 p.m. EST. Because I know I'm doing it at 1 p.m. tomorrow. I'll watch that. And they said they said they're going to show a lot for 3 things. I think they said, and they showed 4.
Yeah, it was Heresy. They were going to be big on Sigmar.
Well, they didn't say it would be. They said we got big reveals for 3. Is effectively what they said.
Which ones? Okay.
No, and they showed here's 4 systems. We got big things for 3 of them.
I'm going to cope real hard and say it's Plastic Sisters, like Plastic Sister jet bikes, Plastic Sister, all the Heresy sisters that they got units for. It's all going to be plastic now, baby. Woo!
It'd probably be more Mechanicum. They're still not done with all that.
It's going to be Mechanicum.
Depending on what they show. Kill Team, they'll show something big for because Kill Team's their newest baby. I'm sure they're going to show something big for Warhammer. Actually, Heresy is oddly enough, if they don't show as much, that's probably the one maybe they don't. Unless it's Kill Team, unless they probably got a new box of verses for a Kill Team, I bet.
It would be funny if they do like a 28 mil dark mech, the walkers. That would be hilarious.
We already know, related to Imperialis, when they do them, that they essentially can do the large size, which they did for the Sentinel, because they do it in CAD. So they literally just scale it up. So if they have it, they absolutely could.
They don't have an Arlatax, which is the close combat Domitar.
Yes.
In 28 mil. So that they have it so that'd be kind of cool if they brought it to 28. I would love that. But if they brought that big tripod look, is it a tripod? He says, no, it's got more than 3 legs. 1, 2, I have it right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got 4 legs, 5 legs. So it has the weird back leg. But yeah, those things are massive. So that'd be kind of cool if that's like the Knight 28 millimeter sized, mod they bring in. That would be pretty cool. I would like that. That'd be nice.
I'm just curious to see what they bring in.
Yeah.
There's nothing in particular that I'm hoping for, just because I just been playing a bunch of other stuff. I'm not looking to do anything right this moment with most GW products. Although maybe they'll show me something that'll change my mind.
Exactly. I got my Heresy. I got my Kill Team. I guess I got my 40K ish. Yeah. So
you have 40K.
Yeah, I do.
You tout constantly how your demons work in 6 different games.
So rumor has it that might not be a thing much anymore.
Why
and
not?
I don't want to. And it's very
Did the Emperor win or
rumors.
Demon's gone now?
No. So very much like, they're removing units from Age of Sigmar, like the Soul Grinder and stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, how Sigmar does, the 4 demon gods are very separate and not all the same.
Yes.
So there's 2 very competing rumors that are not very competing, but they're different, but they're similar, I guess. So one is that demons are actually gone and will be folded into chaos, right?
Wait, so what chaos? Because they don't do just chaos.
like a normal generic armies of darkness kind of nonsense.
Okay.
Or the more prominent rumor is that demons will no longer be mixed, which doesn't bother me because, as you know, I have all Khorne and then I have all Nurgle up there somewhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me, but a lot of people mix their armies like that. That's how they play their demons. And so that demons will be mono demon. You choose Khorne, Nurgle, Slanesh, or Tzeentch, and that is it. Very much like how you do in Age of Sigmar. You know what I mean? You're only Maggotkin, Blades.
Blades of Khorne.
I know Blades. No, I'm thinking the other ones. So it's Magakin, Blades. I don't know the other Something Lust. Is it Something Lust? I don't remember the
No.
Slanesh one, and then the Zinch one. Right? You can't mix and match the demons essentially, and that one's the more prominent rumor, which again doesn't affect me, but it affects like 99% of all the other demon players that mixed and matched their armies, and that would suck. I would feel that's like as bad as what
Disciples
they.
of Zinch and
There it is.
Hedonites of Slanesh.
Hey, there it is. Thank you. Um, so yeah, no, that would feel I'd feel really bad for demon players if that happens because they do mix and
Yeah.
match.
I mean, when you're that big of a game, stuff like that can happen, but it's never a good feeling when they take something you did and it gets removed. It's one thing if it gets altered, but like if you're a Slaves to Darkness player, Soul Grinders are gone.
Yeah,
Well, maybe you really
it's
like Soul
straight
Grinders.
gone.
Maybe you own that army and you had 2 Soul Grinders because you really like it. Well, now they're just throw them out the window.
Yep.
That's what's rough, and that's what at least it's essentially a problem, a problem created by their own success sort of thing. But we don't see that in some of these other games, and especially for the premium that GW goes for personally.
Yeah.
But as always, I mean, they still make great games. I still do enjoy their games.
Yeah, I'm not going to
4th edition Sigmar is fun, but I'm more careful with what I do, or I'm not like, oh, let me go for this. I just go for what I want, and if they get rid of it, I'm not playing a tournament anyway. I'm just going to keep playing it.
Exactly. It's the Legends phenomenon that when did Legends start? That was very recent, right? That was like kind of 9th edition, maybe 10th edition. It's the Legends phenomenon. The idea of like, oh, I'm just going to remove dreadnoughts. And you're just like, well, fuck me. I had 6 of them.
Yeah.
That feels shitty.
As far as I know, I believe it started in 9th. And the real reason that
It was
at
9th.
the moment that started was they legend things that they essentially just weren't making. Things that were like, oh, you were a metal model made 20 years ago. We're not updating you, or we're not going to update you anytime soon, or we just have too many SKUs because we have 15 different captains.
That's how it started.
Yes.
It's not what it is right now.
And then what they did is they said, hey, you got heresy units. Psh, you can play our heresy units and here it'll be great. Oh no, we legend all your heresy units. So if you now they want them purely separate. I think that's why the Soul Grinder honestly went away, because they want the Soul Grinder. Honestly, it fits 40k better anyway. But oh no, that's a 40k model. Get it out of this. It's the same reason why you lost, certain types of orcs
also,
and stuff like that.
Beast of Chaos.
Yep.
Beast of Chaos in all of Age of Sigmar. Jesus.
Yep, because they're for fantasy.
Yeah.
They want differentiation, and I can understand if you're a business why that can be helpful, because now I can understand what I'm selling and why I'm selling it. But it's just rough for the people itself. But obviously it doesn't make a big enough difference, because otherwise they would undo it, kind of thing,
Yeah.
But so be it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's another topic for another time.
I think it was the topic for this time, so we already did.
Not true.
All right. So having said all that, you should see some more stuff coming out for us very soon. I said hopefully recording some with Steve next, and then we'll swap back to Dan with something else. We'll see what that is. All right. Well, on behalf of everyone at the show, then have a good hobby. It's a great gaming.